Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking to you about post-quantum cryptography. More specifically, we'll be trying to break some stereotypes that exist about the cryptography itself and how it is implemented. So what we're going to try to do is take a more pragmatic approach rather than just talk about the maths of it, and help you understand what issue exactly it solves, how it solves it, and how our organizations and auditing companies can work with post-quantum cryptography today. So, quick thing about us, Antoine and Benjamin, and me, Benjamin, both work at Synactive, where we are pen testers and security auditors. And we have been working on post-quantum related projects inside the company for a year now, like that. So yeah, here's basically what we're going to be talking about. First, a quick recap about classical cryptography, and especially define what security means in that context, just as a refresher to be sure that this is set. Then we'll be talking about how quantum computing affects the security of classical cryptographic algorithms, and hence why you should upgrade to post-quantum, how it is being done, and what part an organization can play in migrating today, and then a quick, at the end, explanation of how you can audit post-quantum. So first, a quick refresher on classical cryptography. This may be known to some, but it's better to exactly define what security means in that context to then transition to post-quantum. So the general goal in this context is that two parties, here Alice and Bob, want to have a secure conversation. For that, there is one general protocol that applies. They first have to rely on asymmetric, so publicly key cryptography to set up their communication channel, and then they move to symmetric cryptography for actually exchanging encrypted and protected messages. So the first, as I said, it starts with a key exchange. The aim of the key exchange is for Alice and Bob to agree in a secure manner on a shared secret key. Here it's called K. This is done through asymmetric cryptography. And why this protocol needs to be secure is that this exchange will generally be done on a channel that is not considered secured, for example, the internet. And then, once they have agreed on a shared key K, they can use this key to send any follow-up messages in a symmetric manner. As I mentioned, there is a trust issue here. Between Alice and Bob, they cannot be sure that the channel, for example, the internet, is secure. And so we generally consider in cryptography an attacker Eve. Eve here is performing a man-in-the-middle attack. And basically, she sits in network communications between Alice and Bob and can actively modify the messages that are being exchanged. And a classic man-in-the-middle attack on a key exchange would be basically this. Alice sends publicly material to Bob, but Eve replaces that with their own key material, and the same goes the other way. In that case, Eve can intercept and replay messages between Alice and Bob, but still be able to decrypt everything in the middle. In that case, the shared secrets. So, that is the issue. This is all pretty commonly solved by using certificates and signatures. So you add a new party to the whole protocol, a certificate authority. So this is a trusted third-party entity, trusted by both Alice and Bob. In that case, this certification authority has the means to verify both Alice's and Bob's identity, and once they do, they deliver a signed certificate that attests of that identity. So once, for example, Alice's public key is linked to their identity through this signed certificate, they can both send both their public key and their certificate to Bob, and Bob just has to verify the signature that was created by the certificate authority to ensure that Eve is has not replaced the original public key. And that's in a simplified way how TLS is built. So, for example, in HTTPS in your web browser. That's a simplification, but that's the overall idea. Okay, so now we move on to security. So we basically saw that there are 3 primitives required for secure communications. First, you need to be able to sign data. In this instance, it would be the certificate authority signing a certificate that attests of Alice's identity. You need to be able to establish a shared secret so that you can move on to symmetric cryptography. And you need symmetric cryptography for the actual communications, long-term communications of the data. So what is security in this concept? I've used the word a few times, but I have not defined it here. Basically, it would be how hard it is for an attacker to falsify information exchange or decrypt it. But here's another word I haven't defined, difficulty. Generally, a good way to put that is the number of computational operations required to break the requirements that I mentioned right before. And we consider that good security is basically if your algorithm, if the attacker requires over 2 to the power of 100 operations to break these properties. And we consider that if this criteria is met, it will be impractical even in the next few decades to carry out a realistic attack. For example, AOS 128 is commonly used symmetric algorithm. The best attack is close to brute forcing the key 2 to the power of 128 operations. So that's a slight simplification because there's a slightly better attack, but it's not significantly better. So we're not much off from having to brute force the actual key.
Yeah, thank you, Benjamin. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard about quantum computing. It's kind of a buzzword going around since about 10 or 20 years. So before digging into how quantum computing affects the security properties that Benjamin told you earlier, we're going to go over very rapidly what is quantum computing. So a quantum computer uses qubits instead of classical bits. That is, instead of storing 0 or 1s in memory cells, you have quantum particles with properties, and these properties can be are like quantum properties. So they follow 2 rules, at least. So superposition and entanglement. Superposition means that you can, you're not sure about the state of the property. You're only sure of it once you've measured it. Until then, it's a wave of probability, we call it, to read one state or the other in the property. And entanglement means that you can link the state and the probability distributions through multiple qubits. So multiple particles can have their state correlated. If you read one state in one particle, it will mean that you read another state in the other particle. And with these new properties and new objects, quantum computers can solve certain problems exponentially faster. And so there are algorithms designed to run specifically on these computers. And most notably for cryptography, there are 2 algorithms. The first one is Shor's algorithm, which objective is to find period in functions. So you have a mathematical function, whatever, and in complexity of n cube, n being the number of bits of inputs in your function, in complexity n cube, you can find period. So this breaks integer factorization and discrete log in polynomial time. So this is a problem for algorithms such as RSA or ECDH, so Diffie-Hellman classical key exchange. So for example, factoring a 2048-bit integer, in the current days with a classical computer, it takes in the order of 2 to the 112th operation, so it's considered secured. But with a quantum computer, ignoring the constants and the fact that you have to have stable qubits, and it's way more complicated than that, but the gist of it is that it's in like complexity polynomial, so it's in the order of 2 to the 30 operation, 33. So it's considered insecure. The second algorithm that runs on quantum computer is called Grover's algorithm. It allows enhancing the brute force search. So instead of having to look for throughout the whole 2 to the n key space, for instance, you can look at it in complexity 2 to the n over 2. So it accelerates the brute force. So for instance, with AES 128, Benjamin told you earlier that the classical complexity of it was 2 to the 128th. And here with a quantum computer with around 2 to the 64 operation, you can brute force an AES key. So AES 128 becomes insecure. However, you can notice that AES 256 stays secure against the quantum computer as the quantum speedup would lead to 2 to the 128 operations, which is still secure. Regarding our Alice and Bob setup, what breaks? So the key exchange that we have currently with RSA, ECDSA, with like Diffie-Hellman and elliptic curve cryptography, it breaks because it's based on discrete log or integer factorization. Same goes for the digital signatures like RSA and ECDSA. They're based on integer factorization or discrete log. And the symmetric encryption is just a warning point because you have to use longer keys, but basically it remains okay. So we have to work on key exchange and digital signatures. So how can we upgrade this to post-quantum? So as I said earlier, the discrete log and integer factorization are broken, so we need to find new math problems to construct new crypto algorithms on these math problems. And that's what was done by researchers like cryptographers in the past decades. So they came up with lattice-based problems, code-based problems, hash-based problems, a bunch of categories of problems that are believed to be hard both for classical computers and quantum computers. And upon each of these problems, they constructed a cryptographic algorithm, such as MLChem, so for module lattice key exchange mechanism, MLDSA for digital signature algorithm, and a bunch more. The ones underlined are the ones that stood, that won, if I can say so, the NIST competition, and like that stood the cryptographers' examinations for a few years, and that are now standardized and considered safe and okay to use. Just a quick note, these algorithms run on classical computers, even though they are called post-quantum cryptographic algorithms. They are meant to be secure against an attacker having a quantum computer, but not to be run with a quantum computer. You can use MLChem with your laptop today. That's what we'll see later. There is still a small issue, which is that even though the algorithms that I showed you earlier, some of them were analyzed for a good period of time, it will never be as long as like RSA or elliptic curve cryptography, on which we have a good level of confidence because it stood the test of time. And for instance, SIDH, so it's based on isogeny, which is a different kind of math problem, which was believed to be as hard to be solved by a quantum computer and a classical computer. But SIDH was broken in 2022 after surviving a few years of cryptanalysis. So cryptographers are still scared that a new attack could rise on one of the algorithms that I presented you in the previous slide. So to counter this scary thought, they came up with hybridization, which is a way to combine a classical algorithm with a post-quantum secure one. So that the combination of both is at least as good as the strongest one. That is, if you want to break the combination, you have to break both algorithms. So this is a good safety net in case the post-quantum cryptography algorithm fails, or if a quantum computer arises and the classical algorithm fails. We have published 2 articles recently on hybridization. If you want to go more in depth, we're just gonna brush the surface here. So let's take an example for a key exchange. How one could hybridize a key exchange. So key exchange mechanisms usually are modeled as 3 functions. First, a key generation function that you see on top that generates a public key and a secret key. Then you have the encaps function, which takes a public key and then generates the shared secret as well as a capsule. And the capsule can be sent to the decaps function, which along with the secret key can recover the shared secret. And so with these 3 functions, 2 parties can exchange can share a secret on an insecure channel. So the idea of hybridization is to combine both algorithms, like here, key exchange X and key exchange Y, both in the gen, encaps, and decaps functions. For example, the gen function could generate the key for key exchange X and the keys for key exchange Y, then concatenate the keys, and then the public key will be the concatenation of both. Encaps could perform a hash function on perform the encaps on algorithm Y, on algorithm X, and concatenate and hash the shared secret. This is not the ideal combiner, but for that I let you read the blog post. With our current algorithm, what is to expect if we don't do anything? So we have 2 issues mainly. The first one being the store now decryptator issue. It has to do with key exchanges. So if today Alice and Bob have a conversation, so starting with the key exchange and then symmetric crypto to exchange the real conversation, if Eve was to record all the conversation that Alice and Bob are having, and then wait till a quantum computer become practical, she could use Shor's algorithm to break the key exchange, recover the shared secret, and then decrypt the whole conversation later. So this is a problem as of today. If you exchange data today that are recorded, maybe in 10 years they will be decrypted. The second issue has to do with authentication. In our previous model, Benjamin told you that Alice and Bob both get a certificate from the certification authority, and then they send the certificate to each other. If Eve was in the middle and had the capability to forge signatures, so with a quantum computer, she would be able to act as a man in the middle in the setup that was presented before. So basically, it goes like this. The text is a bit small, sorry, but yeah, if Eve has the capability to forge signatures, she could alter the certificates. So the certificate that Bob receives, and then in the other way, the certificate that Alice receives. That's the main ideas, but as an organization, how could you migrate to post-quantum cryptography? The first prerequisite is to wonder what crypto do you use, where do you use it, what software uses cryptography, where is it most critical that my cryptography is safe, and then you will realize that in most cases, post-quantum transition may already have started in your organization. Indeed, Google Chrome, in their latest versions, they send the client hello with a hybrid algorithm by default. Cloudflare, Google, Azure, they all support hybrid algorithms for the key exchange in TLS by default. All major reverse proxies, they support hybrid key exchange by default also. No, sorry, not by default. Sometimes you have to fiddle with the configuration, but if you have the latest version of your like Nginx, Apache, all these reverse proxies, they now support hybrid key exchange. Recent OpenSSH versions also use hybrid key exchange by default. Just to note that sometimes the version that support it are not yet packaged in Linux distributions, so make sure be careful about the versions. But basically in the next few years, all the post-quantum transition will happen without you noticing it. So it's that easy? Maybe not, because apart from browsers and SSH, you have a whole lot of protocols which are not that agile. Maybe you use MaxSec, maybe you have an exotic VPN. These may not have already started their post-quantum transition. So you have to check manually the update process. Maybe also you use Microsoft, and Microsoft has not yet migrated to post-quantum cryptography in the S-channel stack. So for instance, with LDAP or WinRM over HTTPS, these services have not yet migrated to post-quantum cryptography. Microsoft is actively working toward it. So you should really do a crypto bill of material, so like checking where do you use crypto and for what use, and contact vendors if they haven't started implementing post-quantum cryptography in their software. There was a few hiccups in the beginning in the post-quantum transition. Now it's mostly things of the past. But the post-quantum keys are much larger than the classical like RSA key or ECDSA key. In the past, it broke some implementations of TLS because the client hello was split into more than one TCP packet, so it had a few issues. Yeah, but now it's mostly a thing of the past. So that's when you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Right. Okay, so one last part is about auditing. That's more for offensive companies or auditors that are trying to audit a new implementation, for example, of post-quantum crypto. So as Antoine said, post-quantum cryptography is not quantum in any way. It does not run on a quantum computer. So you don't have considerations that are very different than when you audit a classical cryptography library. I could literally stop there. I'll go over what you would do. So you would basically ensure that the implementation conforms to the standards. For example, NIST FIPS standards. You would ensure that all test vectors pass when you run them on the implementation. And then you hunt for any bugs or leakage of secrets, depending on your attacker model. For example, ensure that random number generation is done properly, especially since some standards require generation, specific specific key structures that will be used with random number generator. Ensure that key management is done properly, for example, to avoid leaving secret keys or secrets in memory when you don't want to, and hunt for side channel vulnerabilities. Timing attacks to avoid leaking secret information, depending on the branching that depends, for example, on as a condition on a secret value, cache attacks, physical attacks, especially if you run the algorithm on a smart card or a similar hardware device. And basically what we're trying to say here is if you can already audit classical crypto libraries, you basically also know how to audit post-quantum ones. You just need to get familiar with which algorithms are standardized and how to use them. So quick recap. Basically, we have seen that we have seen why the quantum computing is an issue for our current cryptography and how exactly it threatens this classical cryptography. We have seen the measures that have been taken in the industry to solve this issue, both for creating algorithms that we believe to be secure enough and putting in place fail-safes so that in case one of these get broken, we still don't end up using broken cryptography in all our infrastructure. And yeah, how as an auditor you can already help audit these implementations to ensure that they're protected against the most common issues. So that's it for us. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them to us. Thanks a lot.